What if I told you that every insult, every moment of dismissal, and every time someone tried to shrink your presence was actually a hidden test of your sovereignty? That disrespect isn't something to fear or avoid, but rather a psychological crucible, an initiation into your own unshakable power. The way you respond to it determines whether you emerge diminished or transformed. This is not just about self-defense. It's about reclaiming your psychological territory and asserting your presence in the world with an authority that cannot be shaken. The video opens with an alchemical engraving of a king dissolving in a flask, his crown floating above the dark liquid. As the image morphs into a modern office scene, a whisper echoes, "What the fool calls disrespect, the alchemist calls prima materia." That moment when the joke lands just a little too sharp, when the interruption feels just a little too deliberate, Carl Jung understood these were never really about you. They were shadow projections, fragments of others' unlived lives hurled at whoever couldn't dodge them. Like medieval alchemists who turned lead into gold, you're about to learn how to transmute these psychological attacks into something far more valuable. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to Psyche Unveiled so you don't miss out on future videos about personal growth and understanding human behavior. Now, let's begin. Unconscious recognition of your sovereignty, the shadow economy. Jung discovered that disrespect follows archetypal patterns older than civilization itself. When that co-worker mocks your idea or that relative dismisses your dreams, they're reenacting what ancient initiation rites called the ordeal by mockery, a test to see if you'd cling to your self-worth when the tribe pretended not to see it. Modern labs confirm this. MRI scans show bystanders' brains light up with dopamine when observing social conflicts, their primal minds whispering, "Show us who deserves status." This explains why just ignore it fails. Silence isn't neutrality. It's participation in your own diminishment. The solution? Become what Jung called the conscious bearer of the projection. When next insulted, pause and think, what broken part of this person sees its reflection in me? This isn't forgiveness. It's psychological warfare at the archetypal level. The 5 alchemical countermeasures. 1. The mirror shield. When interrupted, employ Jung's active imagination technique. Envision their words hitting a silver medieval shield engraved with your initials. As they speak, tilt your head slightly, like a jeweler examining flawed gemstones, and say, "You seem very invested in this point." This does 3 things. Returns their emotional charge, exposes the aggression to bystanders, buys you 2.9 seconds to respond strategically. 2. The anima and animus flip. Jung proved masculine energy crumbles before mysterious feminine receptivity, and vice versa. When demeaned, men, channel your anima by asking, "Help me understand why this matters to you," with genuine curiosity. Women, access anima's power by letting your gaze grow distant, as if viewing them through thick glass. Montage. A CEO disarms hecklers by suddenly discussing his daughter's ballet recital. 3. Synchronicity strikes. Plant Jungian symbols before high-risk interactions. Leave the red book visible on your desk. Wear a ring with your personal sigil. Hum Veni Creatus Spiritus, Jung's favorite hymn, under your breath. These act as psychological tripwires, making aggressors self-censor without knowing why. The Nigredo ritual. After an insult, immediately write it backward in black ink. Hold the paper to a candle, no burning. Whisper, "Solve et coagula." Dissolve and recombine. This alchemizes humiliation into fuel. Stanford studies show ritualization reduces rumination by 62%. 5. The philosopher's exit. When toxicity persists, depart with, "I honor your shadow from over here." Then visualize their words as black smoke hitting an invisible barrier. A technique Jung taught to patients in toxic marriages, the individuation crucible. True power doesn't come from simply reacting to the disrespect around you. It emerges when you begin to initiate and direct the archetypal drama that shapes your existence. Carl Jung's concept of individuation is the key here. Individuation is the process of becoming your most authentic self by integrating the shadow, the parts of you that have been repressed, denied, or misunderstood, and claiming full authority over your psyche. The individuation crucible is where this transformation takes place. To step into your full power, you must stop being a passive player in the drama of life and begin actively shaping it. This is not about being passive in the face of disrespect or suffering silently. It's about taking the reins, learning from the archetypal challenges that come your way, and using them as a forge to refine your inner power. 1. Emotional alchemy through dream tracking. For the next 21 nights, track your dreams closely. Jung believed that our unconscious speaks to us most directly in dreams, where symbols, projections, and archetypes take on vivid form. One of the most potent ways to begin transforming your relationship with disrespect is to start recognizing the symbolic messages embedded in your dreams. Dreams often reflect your internal struggles with authority, power dynamics, and unresolved conflicts. When you notice recurring symbols of mockery or devaluation in your dreams, whether it's being publicly humiliated, dismissed, or ignored, don't view it as a random occurrence. Jung saw dreams as opportunities to understand how the psyche deals with unresolved issues. Each time you encounter mockery in your dreams, ask yourself, what shadow part of me is being reflected here? Is it your inner critic? Or perhaps the part of you that doubts your worth or fears judgment? Is this a projection of an unresolved conflict with a person in your waking life? Recording your dreams every morning will give you a roadmap to understand your internal battles. Through this, you will begin to see patterns emerging in your waking life, allowing you to respond consciously instead of emotionally when faced with disrespect. 2. Active imagination as personal confrontation. The concept of active imagination is one of Jung's most powerful techniques for engaging with your unconscious. When confronted with a disrespectful situation, or when you feel triggered, stop yourself and enter an active imagination exercise. Imagine yourself in a safe, controlled space, perhaps an ancient temple or a quiet forest, where you can confront the figure representing your internal bully. Ask this figure, "What do you want from me?" Allow the conversation to unfold naturally. Don't try to force the answers. Let them come organically. Often, you will find that these negative, judgmental figures in your mind represent parts of you that you've denied, parts that are scared, wounded, or angry. By engaging in dialogue with them, you begin to integrate these fragmented parts of yourself. If you find yourself revisiting specific figures from your past, parents, siblings, or colleagues, ask them questions that cut through the layers of resentment and misunderstanding. What do I need to learn from this interaction? And what has been left unresolved in me? 3. Symbolic revenge as psychological sovereignty. Once you start to reclaim your power through dream work and active imagination, move into the realm of symbolic revenge. This isn't about enacting revenge on the people who have wronged you. It's about how you reclaim your energy and dignity. One of the most profound ways to do this is through symbolic gestures that represent your psychological transformation. For example, craft a gold crown from foil. Each time you enforce a boundary in your life, add a jewel to it, perhaps a dried pomegranate seed, a bead, or a small stone. This physical representation of your sovereignty will serve as a constant reminder of your progress. It's not about physical gold or material wealth. It's about psychological wealth. Every time you stand firm, every time you assert your boundaries or refuse to be diminished, you add to your inner treasure. When you look at your crown, think of it as a symbol of your own sovereignty, your authority. You wear it not for others to see, but to remind yourself that you have mastered the alchemy of transformation. What was once the raw material of humiliation or insult has now become something precious and powerful. You are the alchemist. 4. Integration of the shadow and the internal bully. The deepest work of individuation lies in integrating the shadow, the part of you that holds all your hidden fears, repressed desires, and unmet needs. The inner bully often represents the voice of the shadow, whispering doubts and criticisms that keep you small and fearful. This voice may belong to a parent, a teacher, a peer, or an internalized critic that learned to judge you harshly in childhood. The process of confronting and integrating this shadow requires courage and patience. You must resist the temptation to silence it or repress it, for doing so would only make it more powerful. Instead, face it directly. Meditate or sit in silence with this bully. Ask it questions. What part of me are you protecting? What fears are you hiding beneath this criticism? As you engage with this part of yourself, you will find that it no longer holds the power to dictate your actions. When the voice of the critic arises in moments of vulnerability, or when disrespect is thrown your way, you will recognize it for what it is, an old, unhealed part of yourself that no longer controls you. 5. Testing your psychological resilience. Beyond the private work of individuation, it's time to test your new sovereignty in the real world. Begin by exposing yourself to controlled situations where you can practice asserting your boundaries without overreacting. Start small. Perhaps a difficult conversation with a colleague or setting a boundary with a friend or family member. Use the alchemical techniques you've learned, such as the mirror shield, to neutralize their aggression and assert your presence with confidence. The more you engage with situations that challenge your sense of authority, the more you will learn to embody your psychological sovereignty. Over time, you will notice that the insults and dismissals that once would have shaken you no longer have the same effect. You will not only survive these moments, you will transcend them. And in transcending them, you become untouchable. Right now, your mind is likely cycling through past situations where these techniques could have changed everything. That frustration? That's your awakening. The person you were couldn't have used these strategies effectively, but the person you're becoming will. The question isn't whether you'll face disrespect tomorrow. The question is, when it comes, will you react from habit or respond from strategy? The difference between those two states is where your new life begins. Your choice tonight. 1. Light a black candle and name one insult you'll transmute. 2. Morning. Stand before a mirror and state 3 boundaries you will enforce today. 3. Comment Kino to join others walking this path. Finally, no tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. Jung.